Hello, you are listening to From McClay to Zama. I'm your host, Karen Miller. This podcast is about the adventures of two women from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, who worked for the U.S. Army at Camp Zama, Japan, from 1953 to 1955. Their stories are told through hundreds of letters written home. Episode 34, letters 99 to 101. These letters include a lot of talk about one of my favorite foods, sweet Lebanon bologna from Setzer's. It has to be from Setzer's. Well, I think they're the only ones that make the sweet. This has been one of my favorite foods for my whole life and was a special treat that I look forward to having every time I visited home. Bern and Peg always had some for me to eat and some to bring back to North Carolina. Lebanon bologna is a cured, smoked, and fermented beef sausage. It looks a bit like salami, and according to the internet, originated in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania in the early 1800s. This is the history from the Setzer's website. In 1902, Harvey Setzer, an ambitious butcher, mastered a unique blend of spices and 100% beef, along with a 3-day natural hardwood smoking process that helped create the world of Lebanon bologna in Lebanon County, Pennsylvania. Nestled in the gentle rolling hills of Pennsylvania Dutch country, the Setzer family carefully guards the secret to producing our beloved smoked meats. Our savory creations originated in the 19th century as resourceful Pennsylvania Germans incorporated old-world butchering, curing, and sausage making skills into life on Lebanon County farms. I confess to placing an order with a site called Pennsylvania General Store, and my sweet Lebanon arrived within 2 days. You know, you got to do some research for the podcast. And, of course, I have something here sitting beside me. So let's get started with letter 99 from Bern, written the 13th of April, 1954, Camp Zama. Hi, folks. The mail just arrived, and guess what? I received a wedding invitation. It was kind of a surprise to get one over here. I know the fella, but not the girl. He's a big, blonde, handsome specimen of a man from Scranton, Pennsylvania. He used to work here at Special Services. The wedding is Saturday, April 24th at the Tokyo Chapel Center, with a reception afterward at the Rocker 4 Club. If I can find a congenial soul, not my boss, although she is going, I shall probably attend. Gives me an excuse to get really dressed up for a change. I attended Palm Sunday services here at the Zama Chapel, but we had a guest speaker, and to me at least, he was very disappointing. Chaplain Whipple is so very good that most anyone else suffers by comparison. However, we did receive a strange and different kind of palm, so that was interesting. Did Peg tell you that we plan to attend the 5:30 Easter sunrise service rather than the 11 o'clock? Taffy Gunther very kindly arranged for Peg and I to be invited along with her to attend a tea ceremony on Easter Day. The friend suggests, however, that we attend the morning one because of the greater crowds in the afternoon, so we shall have to leave camp about 8 o'clock Easter morning. However, we are planning to attend the communion service on Monday, Thursday evening, and the noon-hour Good Friday service, and possibly the Friday evening service when a cantata is being given. So I really don't believe we'll be neglecting the other part of the observance, do you? Helen, about the candy from the chapter. I remember when Peggy wrote her thank you note, I kidded her about being so darn prompt. I think she wrote the note the day we received the boxes. And until I received your note last week, that was the last I thought about it. I remedied this, and the note was written this week. It's very embarrassing, though. I'm sorry. Honest, I did try real hard to get a spring dress, but there were none suitable to be had in the PX, and neither could I find any material which I liked. I didn't want another shantung, and the silk pongee prints were all too large in design for me. Actually, I have the blue navy shantung dress and the light blue shantung suit, both of which are too large now, but I'm having them fixed so I will have enough for dress-up occasions. Shoes are another major problem. The Japanese salesgirls and the GIs who have Japanese gal friends and wives grab up all the small sizes, so both Peg and I are out of luck. However, Mary Carrera has a charge account at a department store in San Francisco, so I'm going to send there for shoes. She receives hers about 2 weeks after she orders them, so that is better service than if I ask you or Betty to get them and mail them from the East Coast. I fear the rainy season is about to descend upon us. Yesterday was regular typhoon weather. A steady downpour all day and extra heavy winds. My oiled paper Japanese umbrella was absolutely no good against all that breeze, so I got absolutely soaked every time I had to go outdoors. Fortunately, the air was warm, so I don't believe I will have caught a cold. I look like a wreck, though, as you can well imagine. We also had 2 slight earthquakes one evening last week. Peg was taking a shower during the first one and didn't feel a thing, so that gave me a clue as to where to head during the next one. Actually, when they are as slight as most of the ones I've experienced, if a person is standing anywhere in an upright position, you're quite apt not to know what is going on. It is only when sitting or lying down that you get much vibration. It's exciting, though. We are looking forward to taking a week's vacation early in May. Has Peg told you? We have reservations at a special services hotel in Kyoto from May 8th through the 13th. That is where I was last September. Do you remember? And I got caught in Typhoon Tess. This time I'm hoping for better luck, so I can take sightseeing tours and see the city of Kyoto, etc., which had to be curtailed last time. Taffy is going with us, and maybe Gladys Rigsby, so we should have lots of fun. I don't have anything more to tell you except to look for a big surprise to come your way about the end of May or beginning of June. Ha ha ha. That's a long time to keep you guessing, isn't it? Wait and see. Love, Bern. Letter 100 from Peg, written the 16th of April, 1954 from Camp Zama. Dear Mother and Daddy, this is a big surprise, isn't it? I just feel like talking to you for a few minutes, and I'm not too busy, so that explains it. I don't really have anything exciting to say, so excuse, Dozo, while I ramble. One of the nicest sergeants in the office just came in and spoke sayonara to us. He's sailing tomorrow for a new assignment at Walter Reed Army Hospital. I wonder what it will be like when I go around and shake hands and say my goodbyes. I guess I'll feel scoshy about leaving the folks, but after a while, you get used to the fact that even the ones you like a lot will leave sooner or later, and they'll still be here, and you'll leave. Now I'll razzle-dazzle you with 2 French expressions I've picked up that pretty well sum up the situation. C'est la vie and c'est la guerre. That's life, that's war. Don't you really think I'm becoming international? CC. I've been interrupted about 10 times since I started typing this. First, I had to go down for coffee for 2 of the honchos. Then I had to talk about Pennsylvania and the state of Washington with Colonel Wilson. He's the new vet. I think we'll make out about as well as Uncle Harry Van Tool and I did. Then I had to make up a mailing label for Colonel Joliffe, the chief nurse, for a pair of earrings she wants to send to a friend. Busy day, huh? Bern and I went to communion last night. It was a very nice service. The chaplain, Lieutenant Colonel Whipple, just fascinates me when he reads from the Bible. He makes it sound as though it is a story from a best-selling novel. I wouldn't mind a bit hearing him start at Genesis and going right through the good word. We're going to Good Friday service today from 1200 to 1330. I can only remember 1 or 2 Good Fridays when the sun shone brightly. This Good Friday is cloudy and dark. Sunday morning, we're going to sunrise service at 0530 hours on the parade ground here at the camp. Then we're going with Taffy to Kamakura. I think I told you about that. Speaking of Easter, we're anxious to find out whether you got the flowers we had sent to you from Hawaii. We have no idea what they look like because we saw the advertisement in the Nippon Times and sent it in with a mail order. We ordered gingers, so please tell us what they look like. Bern and her boss, Betty Cartmel, and I had dinner together last night. They both have been invited to a wedding of a fellow who formerly worked in SPS and is now working for a British importing firm. They cooked up a deal whereby I'm going along with them, even though I don't have an invitation to either the wedding or the reception. In fact, I don't even know the fella, but I've seen him once or twice. But anyhow, we're positive we'll meet some of the rich merchants who are friends and business associates of Bill's, and we're going to have a grand time. I'll be sure to let you know whether I carry through with it or whether I'm kicked out. We ate in at Hans's, the German restaurant, last Wednesday night. Gladys and Taffy went along, and we all had Sauerbrauten. My gosh, we just gorged. That beef was so wonderful. We almost got in a fight, though, because some fella in there was smitten with Bern's red coat. She merely makes a big hit in it, believe me. And while I went to the benjo, she made a big scene and said, I don't care who's wearing the red coat. You're married and very much married. So she stormed out of the place. Okay. I don't understand, fella. Okay. But in a few minutes later, she came back and looked at us and said, these women. So Gladys and I were all set to lay her low with a few fast ones, and Byrne and Taffy practically had to sit on us. We didn't, though, but I sure was itching. Don't I sound like a ruffian? I'm harmless, though. But she sure made us mad. I'm not quite sure. I guess the Japanese woman or the woman was mad that the man was looking at Byrne's red coat. Not sure there. The news about French Indochina doesn't sound too promising, does it? I'd rather imagine that Morse Gauche, the U.S., will be mixed up in that one, too. The other night at the movies, Byrne said, do you think that at any time in our lifetime we will see a newsreel that doesn't have some scenes of war somewhere in it? I really don't think we ever will. And, too, the big news a few weeks ago was that the Japanese fishermen who were dusted with radioactive dust from the H-bomb that was exploded in Eniwetok. The paper today said that all of them are on the road to recovery. It just seems to me, though, the world today is getting ahead of itself and doing things and manufacturing weapons of war that human beings were never intended to do. I guess that's about all this time. This note isn't even worth a 6-cent stamp. 6-cent stamp. Because I haven't said anything, really. But I told you I just felt like talking to you. Oh, another thing, Daddy. I think you will appreciate this joke I read in the Nippon Times last week. A whale and a herring were inseparable buddies. They traveled everywhere together. One day, the other fish saw the herring without the whale and questioned the herring as to the whale's whereabouts. When asked, where is your friend, the whale? The herring replied, how should I know? I'm not my blubber's kipper. And with that painful paragraph, I leave. Take care of yourselves. Love and kisses, Peggy. Letter 101. From Peg, written the 19th of April, 1954, Camp Zama. Dear Daddy, I'll see how far along I can get with the letter to you alone. The honchos have been pestering the daylights out of me today. By 10:30 hours, I was ready to change my name to Sally or Susie or something, anything, because every minute or so, one of the colonels called for me to do something. They are a bunch of prima donnas, each wanting his work to be done first. The chief consultant, Colonel Bolabaugh, is getting ready to depart from the theater and also to retire from the army, so he's quite busy making up final reports, etc. One day, he pulled rank on us and said that he was the ranking colonel in this office and I deserve a little consideration, and if the other colonel's work isn't urgent or absolutely hurry up, please forget about it and do my work. I murmured a polite yes, sir, and did just what he told me to do. He has a bad case of ulcers, and when they start acting up, he's regular hell on wheels. Most of the time, I can finagle around and keep everyone happy, but today it started to get the best of me, and I just didn't answer them until they called me twice. It was nice to get a letter from you instead of Mother sending messages from you. You always ask some questions, and then I feel as though I have something to write about instead of digging in my memory for something to say. Yes, we have the latest movies over here. We've seen 2 CinemaScope pictures, The Robe and How to Marry a Millionaire. Both of them were seen in Tokyo. Every once in a while, we get a glimpse of television as we pass a radio shop somewhere. It's pretty good, but the programs are typically in Japanese. We've seen a sumo wrestling match, part of it at least. The people gather around the store windows the same as they do back in the States. I don't know whether there have been any 3D movies shown, but I think I don't think Hollywood is producing them anymore. CinemaScope seems to be quite the rage, although I'm just as well satisfied with the plain old black and white, regular-sized movies, aren't you? The music. Yes, you can hear that junk on the Japanese stations. Needless to say, we don't listen to it. We stay tuned into the FEN, Far East Network, and get most of the bigger radio shows reproduced. They're a few weeks later than you get them back home, and 2, there's no advertising on the FEN. We get little squibs like, be a good representative of the United States in your conduct, conserve equipment, donate blood, and stuff like that. Which is selling better these days, Rinso or Does, or is there some other miracle detergent on the market? We get all the latest magazines over here, but they too are a month later than you receive them. However, we keep pretty well posted on the news from the Stars and Stripes and the Nippon Times. In fact, although I don't know all the ins and outs of world affairs, I'm at least better informed than I was back home, simply because it affects me more than it did back there. Daddy, you have no idea how a headquarters can be so completely blah. There is so much unnecessary fooling around and waste. It's a crying out loud shame. And politics, oh my. Thank fortune I'm only a GS4 and I'm not involved in anything like that because it just passes over me. But the people who are dyed-in-the-wool army and civil service really know the ropes and the people to do the best for them. Just as a matter of instance, I typed up an efficiency report for the general the other day. It was for a colonel who's the CO of a hospital in his command. He was given a good efficiency rating, and all the supporting documents and comments led me to believe that his good efficiency rating was based almost entirely on being a good party giver. There's a lot of dissatisfaction in the Army, and the older NCOs and the real officers who like and get a very personal satisfaction out of their jobs are very disgusted with the setup, at least here in AFFE. There is so much fooling around with unnecessary things. Just take our office. Not once, but many times, I have typed up in draft form a short paragraph and sometimes even 2 or 3 sentences for a first endorsement of a letter or as a comment on a piece of correspondence. There's nothing wrong with typing things up in draft form. In fact, it usually means a big saving in time and paper. But when the dictator can't be satisfied with one change, but changes the comment 2 or 3 times before it's finally ready for signature or approval, then I think it's about time to check a lot of the present Army officers and get some people in jobs who can make up their minds and know what they're doing. Most of us are of the opinion, and I certainly concur, that 90% of the present Army couldn't even draw the first 2-week paycheck in civilian industry. And that's the only reason why they're in the Army. Yes, I'm just a little PO today because I've spent most of the day with some of the foolishness that I've written above. And it gets the best of me sometimes. Speaking of my GS4, as soon as we have the big turnover in our office that is due in a few weeks, I'm going to request that my job be upgraded to a GS5. I probably won't get it, and the job certainly doesn't warrant it. But Elizabeth and I do the same work, i.e., we take dictation from any and all of the consultants, and we are both able to interchange the work that needs to be done. So I don't feel like there should be a differentiation between the 2 jobs. It probably won't do a bit of good, but at least I'm going to ask for it. You know, at times like today, I give anything to work with Mr. McFarland just for one day and have the feeling that I was doing something worthwhile. And just to work with someone who could make a snap decision when one was needed, instead of conferring, rewriting, hemming and hawing over a silly piece of stuff that is unnecessary in the first place. In spite of the many things that are not in Mr. McFarland's favor, he is a shrewd businessman and a good administrator, which in fact, I only appreciate after working with some of the dopes over here. Gee, I really have gone on at great length, haven't I? I just got back work to do for the chief nurse, so I'll be back later. I think I'm going to like this Colonel Wilson, the new vet, because he asks questions and wants to know the whys and wherefores of everything. He already told me about several changes he intends to make after Colonel Von Tool leaves, so maybe he will have a bit of life to him. But Colonel Van Tool says he's an empire builder, and that maybe he'll be looking only for his own personal glorification. Oh, nuts to it all. Last night, I'm getting ahead of my story. Okay, yesterday was Easter, and it was a miserable day as far as the weather is concerned. It rained all day, so it canceled our plans for going to the sunrise service and then to Kamakura. We went to the 1100 service, though, and it was grand. I really liked the chaplain, and I could listen to him for hours. After the service, I talked with one of the Marines who came over for the service, and he said he liked him better than any other chaplain he'd known since he'd been in the Marines. I wish you could know him because he's a grand person, the chaplain, that is. Pete's nice too, but the chaplain's nicer. The church was very crowded, but tell Mother that the women looked like slops for the most part. Maybe they didn't wear their Easter finery because of the weather, but Army folks just don't dress up like civilians. After church, we went to the club for breakfast, and then we came home and read and slept. Last night, Taffy, Byrne, and I went up to the club for a buffet. The buffets are simply scrumptious. You know how much I go for that goop, and I sure got my money's worth. Byrne and Taffy were finished long before I was, but it was so good. Now, to get back to what I started to say, I met a captain whose home is in Laceyville, Pennsylvania. We started talking about Pennsylvania Dutch food, and he just about had a fit when I told him that we had gotten Lebanon bologna. He said, "There's bologna, and then there's Lebanon bologna." So we had a grand time reminiscing about pretzels, Wiener Schnitzel, although I've never eaten that stuff, Sauerbrauten, etc. I strongly recommended Hans's to him, so I imagine he'll be a pretty regular customer there. Well, it's about time to go home, so I'll tack on a few words tonight. I guess you think I wasn't too busy to have found time to write this much at work, but I wrote most of it when I was PO'd, and then my fingers just flew. Sayonara for now. I type fast when I'm angry too. Burns started a letter to Dan and Margaret, and I must enclose a note and tell them about Colonel Cleveland. She writes good letters and describes things much better than I do. She writes about things, and I write about people. You'll be interested to know that Saturday night, Byrne and I were talking with a Marine who we both think is a little dull, and we all started talking about incidents at home. I got on the farm show stories, and so a few more folks know how you ate breakfast without your fake teeth that day because Mother hid them under the bathtub. People over here think we have a real grand family, and we tell them how very lucky we are. No more news, and I have some chores to do, so I'll sign off. We're anxiously awaiting next week's letter from Mother telling us whether you got the flowers and in what condition they were. Take care of yourselves. Write again soon. Love, Peggy-san. I just love these letters. And I've just been thinking about Peg's observation that she writes about people, and Byrne writes very beautifully descriptive letters. And I think that's one of the reasons I like to compare when they describe the same events and how differently they describe them. So as a teacher, I'm teaching writing this week to middle school students, and I have all new appreciation for the written word because of this podcast. And I feel like it is really enriching my life. I hope it is enriching yours. Have a good week. I hope you're enjoying the podcast, and if you are, please subscribe in Spotify. On Apple Podcasts, hit the plus button in the top right-hand corner and rate. This will help my listeners find my podcast more easily. You can access the show's website at www.fromtheclaytozama.com, where I've posted photos and links from the episodes. The podcast is now available on iHeartRadio, Pandora, Patreon, and Amazon as well. New episodes will be available each Friday morning. The letters were written by my aunts Byrne and Peg, transcribed by me. I write and record the show and have created the artwork and original music. Our producer is Zeke, our sound engineer is intern Sylvie, and the security is provided by intern Frey. Thanks to my great-grandparents, John and Helen, who loved us all and thought it was a good idea to save the letters. All rights reserved, 2024.